All right. Speaking of calming down.
Speaking of absurd.
And absurdity. Let's move on. Our former president. So we brought you the news that Sean Hannity had proposed some plan in which we bomb the Russian convoy, but we put a fake Chinese flag on it so then they go to war. I thought he was dumb enough to come up that with his own, but it seems that we have the original source. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. So Donald Trump recently, over the weekend, speaking to a donor conference, he told the donors, quote, "We should put a Chinese flag on our F-22s, then bomb the shit out of Russia. And then we say, China did it. We didn't do it, China did it." And then they start fighting with each other, and we sit back and watch. Let's go ahead and put this next one up there, which is also very important, which is that Trump went ahead and said that NATO was a, quote, paper tiger, and added of Ukraine, "At what point do we say, can we not take the massive crime against humanity? We can't let it happen. We can't let it continue to happen." This, again, is the sheer incoherence of the Trump administration. You know, musing one of the dumbest possible ideas. You could say he's joking. Okay, maybe. But look, in geopolitics, like I just explained in our censorship block, whenever that stuff gets printed out on the page, the words of the former president, and they're read in the Kremlin or in Moscow or in Russian state media, what do you think that they're going to say? They'll look at the insanity of what they're trying to do over there. And then also, the more he keeps up this, it's a Holocaust over there, it's a crime against humanity, those terms mean something. They mean that the world should act. And in almost every case that they are used to justify military action. By preparing and using this language to the GOP base and to, you know, Republicans in general, you're setting up a faction and empowering one which will pursue a war with Russia, something your administration rightfully wanted to not have, and came in, which I supported, a détente with the Russian government and a realignment of geopolitics. But unfortunately, his sheer incoherence is setting up a terrible situation. I mean, look, I know I sound like MSNBC right now, but the words of a president do matter, especially whenever it comes to a hot conflict, and especially somebody who may himself be the chief executive 3 years from now, dealing with whatever the fallout is here. Even if it was a joke, it's not one that should be floated in public in any serious way. So I don't know what to say. I mean, it scares the hell out of me, honestly, Krystal.
Yeah, well, and it's not just that he was the former president, that he might, though he's a once and possibly future president.
Could be the president.
But he's very influential, you know?
Millions of people believe every word that the man says.
And this is one of those situations where, you know, when things sort of jump off and people aren't sure where they're supposed to be, they look for these sort of signals of, where is my team?
Yeah, that's right.
What is my team's posture and stance in all of this? And he is one of the people that, for the Republican base, is most influential in setting what that posture and stance is. So when you say things like it's a Holocaust, when you say things like we can't let it happen, we can't let it continue to happen, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that ultimately justify? And we've already seen, just in the span of the past couple of weeks, a huge shift in the Republican base on their orientation towards this conflict. Originally, there was more of a sort of attitude of, this isn't really our problem. We should be limited and very judicious ultimately in our response. Now you're seeing, we can put this next piece up on the screen, this is from the Washington Free Beacon poll, you're seeing now a large level of support for the plurality here is impose the strongest possible sanctions on Russia and seek a diplomatic resolution. So that's the most, the only one that they, you know, that was more hawkish that they didn't go along with was sending U.S. troops to support the Ukrainian resistance. That's good. But you now have 80% of the Russian base saying we need to do more, that we're not taking a tough enough stance. And so that creates an opening for people to say, all right, well, that do more is a no-fly zone. That do more is a cyber attack on Russia. That do more is, you know, some of the things, frankly, the Biden administration is already doing, floating fighter jets and 17,000 Javelin missiles and all of this massive flow of arms into Ukraine. So that's why Trump's words here are really significant. And I think The GOP base has significantly changed over just the past couple of weeks to take a much more hawkish position, when in the beginning it was actually the Democratic base that was in the more hawkish stance with regards to Russia after, of course, years of Russiagate.
And look, escalation seems like nothing until it's everything. I mean, the Cuban Missile Crisis happened in 13 days. That's really not that long. That's, it's less than 2 weeks. Think about that in terms of how quickly the geopolitical situation can escalate all the way up to the top and the brink of nuclear war. And all it takes is one wrong situation. And when you have a base and people who are pushing for something and people want to appear tough with big language, boom, that's in the matter of seconds, you've just created an incredibly dangerous situation. So Trump's rhetoric here is, worse than useless. It's actually, it's escalating in terms of what he's saying about Chinese planes and all this stuff. Some of it's always, he never ceases to amaze me whenever it comes to this type of action. And look, if he's the president again, we're going to have to grapple with that.
Yeah, and then he's got his own propaganda network, apparently, in Sean Hannity and co. to spread whatever insanity he, cooks up in his dreams.
I knew Sean, I should have known that this would have come directly from Trump's mouth.
It's funny because you're totally right.
Yeah.
It definitely originated with Trump. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, he didn't even come up with this idea himself, Trump. This came from Sean Hannity.
No,
you're right. It
it's
came
the other
from
way.
Trump.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut. Our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions. All that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.